Today in our 2011 Ram 3500, we're going to be installing CURT's double-lock flip and store underbed gooseneck hitch with installation kit. You could also pick up just the hitch separately or just the installation kit by itself. And this is what our hitch is going to look like when it's installed. You have your flush-mounted gooseneck ball insertion point here with your safety chain loops on each side. Safety chain loops are spring-loaded to help keep them drawn down to the bed of the truck when not in use, to help maximize your truck bed. Additionally, the hitch ball can be pulled out and placed upside down, further maximizing your use of your truck bed. It's going to allow you to haul your gooseneck trailer, and it has a 7,500-pound tongue weight, and that's the force going down on top of the receiver, and a 30,000-pound gross towing capacity. That's how much it can pull behind it. You do want to verify in your vehicle's owner's manual that you don't exceed any of its towing capacities. We'll begin our installation at the back of the vehicle by cutting out our hole for our gooseneck. You'll want to refer to your instructions for the appropriate place to make your mark, because it's going to vary depending on the length of your truck bed. Once you've got your mark made, we're going to start by drilling a 1/4-inch pilot hole. And we're going to switch to a 4-inch hole saw to complete our cut. We can then clear coat the hole to help prevent any rust and corrosion. Now on your inner fender well, you're going to need to remove one of these plastic panels here. There's a couple of push pins that hold it in. Just take those out, set it aside. It may help if you take the plate on this side off as well. Give you a little more room to see. We can now slide our cross rails in. Now it is going to be tight, and if necessary, you may need to use a pry bar or a crescent wrench or something to give you that additional clearance to get this in. Additionally, if you get it started right there, you can use the beam itself to kind of pry up to allow you to slide it all the way in. When we're sliding this one in, we want to make sure the holes are facing towards the rear of the vehicle. Now we'll use the same location where we bent it up to slide in our next rail. This time we want the holes to be facing towards the front of the vehicle. And this one's going to slide towards the rear. Now we'll separate these. One's going to go towards the rear, one's going to go towards the front, with your holes being towards the center. Next we're going to put our U-bolt in place. It's going to go on the frame here, but you cannot pinch any of your hoses or wires underneath the U-bolt. So we're going to use a pair of needle nose or side cutters, whichever you've got. You can use trim panel tools to remove the clip for the wiring there. Then we can get our U-bolt in place. You need to make sure that it's on both sides of the frame from the inside out. Take 4 of the 1.5-inch carriage bolts and place the spacers on them like this. Because the customer had an aftermarket exhaust system, it had to be removed. If you have a factory exhaust system, you can follow your instructions as normal. We can now raise our center section into place. You want to make sure that it's offset towards the rear like we have it here. We'll take those bolts that we prepared, we're going to slide it through our front member, and then we're going to place a flange nut on the other side. We're going to do this 3 more times with the remaining holes. Now we'll slide our rear cross arm forward, and we're just going to insert the same size carriage bolt but no spacer on it through the holes, and follow that with a flange nut. We're going to do the same with the 3 remaining holes on the rear. Next we'll assemble our side plates. Starting with the driver's side plate, you want to lay it down flat with the ears facing up. Then you're going to take your other piece of your side plate with the angle going down, and it's going to sit like this. You'll place a carriage bolt through it like that. These are the shorter carriage bolts that come in the kit, and place a flange nut on the other side. Our passenger side is going to assemble very similarly with the flanges up, and then the other piece here having the flange down. We'll attach it with the same bolts that we used on the driver's side. We'll now remove our bump stops. You're going to use a 15mm socket to remove those. There's going to be a bolt on each side. We're going to remove both bump stops, one on each side. We can now lift our side plate up into position. When we do so, we want to line up the U-bolt so that way it slides through the upper and lower holes in our bracket. Then we're going to loosely thread a flange nut onto our U-bolt, both the top and bottom. If you're pinching your wire here, you may need to loosen this to rotate it into the slot so that way you don't pinch it. And you can go ahead and leave this loose for now. Just make sure you tighten it back down once you've got everything else in place, so you can ensure that you don't pinch it. Now we're going to place our rear U-bolt in. Just like the front, it's going to go from the inside of the frame like that. Make sure you don't pinch any wires. Then you're going to need to place a spacer on it. We want the small cutout here to be towards the top, so that way we clear for this bolt here. So we're going to slide that on. And now our U-bolt can slide through the side frame bracket. We're going to once again secure that using flange nuts. Next, we're going to reinstall our bump stop, but we're going to be using the hardware that comes in the kit. You want to take the skinnier bolts, place the conical tooth washer on them with the teeth facing up away from the head of the bolt, and just reinstall these right into the factory weld nuts. Now we can take the 1.5-inch carriage bolts that come in the kit, the other spacers that are a bit offset like you see here. We're going to slide this from the inside out and put a flange nut on the other side. This is going through the side plate first, and then our cross member that's holding up our center section. We're going to do the same thing with the rear portion of it as well. We'll now repeat this exact same process on the other side, starting with putting the U-bolt in the front just like we did on this side. We can now go back and tighten down all of our hardware. You're going to use a 3/4-inch socket to tighten down all of the nuts. You may need a wrench for a few of the tighter bolts, like the one here towards the front at the top. Don't forget your hitch. It's going to use the same 3/4-inch socket. Then we'll tighten down our jounce bumpers. This is going to use a 17mm socket. Next, we'll torque all of our hardware to the specifications found in our instructions. Now we're going to insert our release handle. That's going to go through the hole located here. In order to get the release handle to operate, we're going to need to cut out some of the section here. We're just going to use some tin snips to trim that out. We can then slide our handle in. Continue bringing the handle in. Once you've got it lined up with the holes, we're now going to insert our locking pin. That's going to slide into your hitch there. You can then place our spring on, slide our release handle all the way down, lining up the holes there at the top. You can then use the small bolt and nut that come in the kit, slide it through, and attach the nut. We'll then tighten that down with an 8mm. We don't need it to be super tight. It's an eye-lock nut, so it's not going to come undone. It's just there to secure the handle to the locking mechanism. You just want to verify that it's working. Pull it out, give it a little twist. It should lock in place. Twist it back, ensure that it springs back in. Now we're going to drill out our holes for our safety chain loops. You've got 2 sets on each side. You want to make sure that you choose the set that's flush with our rails here. See how it's raised here and flush here? So we're going to be using the outer set. We'll then take a 1/2 inch drill bit. We're just going to drill up through the opening. We're now going to repeat this for the other hole on this side and the 2 on the other side. Now back up top, we're going to take our safety chain U-bolts. We're going to slide them down through the holes that we just drilled. We're going to do that for each one. Now back underneath, we're going to take our U-bolts that we just slid through on top. We'll add a flat washer, spring, another flat washer, and a lock nut. We're going to do this for the other side of this U-bolt and the other U-bolt on the other side. We can now go back and tighten them down until the nut is flush with the bottom of the bolt. We're going to use a 3/4 inch socket to do this. If you want to put it on, there is a rubber strip that comes with it that you can wrap around your hole that you had cut. And if you put that on, you simply spread it apart at one end, slip that end on, and then just work your way around. We can now place our chrome ring on the top. Take the small Allen head bolts and thread those down into the hitch. We'll then tighten it down with a 3mm Allen wrench. We can now vacuum up our metal shavings and insert our gooseneck hitch ball. Release the lock for our hitch ball, and now we're ready to hook up our gooseneck trailer and hit the road. And that completes our installation of CURT's double lock flip and store underbed gooseneck hitch on our 2011 Ram 3500.